What if I told you that the Great War, the war that was supposed to end all wars, wasn't started by an assassin's bullet in Sarajevo, but by a secret financial war that had been raging for decades? A war fought not with rifles, but with gold reserves, pirate-like raids on shipping lanes, and a deliberate paradox built into the global money system that made peace mathematically impossible. By the end of this video, you'll see World War I not as a political tragedy, but as the explosive climax of the greatest monetary heist in history. Stay until the end, because the same paradox is happening again right now. Most history books tell you the war began in 1914 with Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But zoom out, in 1913, something far more dangerous was signed into existence in the United States. The Federal Reserve Act. Across the Atlantic, the Bank of England had been privately controlled since 1694. Germany was running on the Reichsbank, state-controlled, no private shareholders. France had the Bank of France, a hybrid, and tiny Belgium. Its central bank was dominated by the same Rothschild Société Générale networks that controlled London and Paris. This wasn't a coincidence. The world was split into two monetary camps. The gold-backed, privately influenced cartels centered in London and Paris, the rising industrial powers, Germany, and the United States, who were starting to question why a handful of banking families in Europe got to set the price of money for the entire planet. Here's the twist nobody teaches you. The British Empire's global dominance didn't come from the Royal Navy alone. It came from financial piracy, the ability to borrow unlimited amounts of gold-backed credit while everyone else had to pay in real metal. And by 1910, that system was cracking. Go back to 1871. Germany crushes France in the Franco-Prussian War and demands 5 billion francs in gold as reparations, the largest transfer of physical gold in history up to that point. France pays, but where does the gold really go? Much of it ends up in the vaults of the Bank of England and Rothschild vaults. Germany thinks it's getting rich. In reality, it just handed London the ammunition to tighten the noose. Fast forward to the 1890s. Britain is running chronic trade deficits. Its factories can't compete with German and American industry. But instead of losing gold, London does something genius and pirate. It forces its colonies India, Egypt, Australia to hold their reserves in London in paper pounds, not gold. This is Cayet gold exchange standard trickery. Britain gets to spend money it doesn't have, while colonies are forbidden from asking for the actual gold. Result: Britain lives beyond its means for decades. Classic financial piracy. Germany watches this and says, "We're not playing this game." Kaiser Wilhelm launches the Weltpolitik, build a massive navy, colonies, and most dangerously, the Berlin to Baghdad Railway. Why was that dangerous? Because that railway would bypass the British-controlled Suez Canal and give Germany direct access to Iraqi oil using gold-backed marks, not sterling debt. Britain panics. Between 1904 and 1912, British newspapers run non-stop propaganda about the German menace. But behind the scenes, the real fear is financial. Germany is about to create an independent trade bloc that doesn't need the City of London. In 1912, Lord Rothschild writes a private letter later leaked. If Germany succeeds in the Baghdad Railway, the financial supremacy of London is over. 1913, the United States creates the Federal Reserve, privately owned, but with a public facade. Suddenly, the Anglo-American banking cartel is reunited under one roof. July 1914. The assassination in Sarajevo is the spark, but the powder keg was financial. Here's what almost no one knows. In the weeks before the war, European banks began massive gold withdrawals from London. France and Russia pulled hundreds of millions in gold to prepare for war. Britain's gold reserve drops to a dangerous low. If the war had been delayed just 6 more months, Britain could have faced a bank run that would have collapsed the pound. War became the only way to freeze gold payments and force the empire to accept paper money. August 4th, 1914. Britain declares war and immediately suspends gold convertibility temporarily. That temporary suspension lasted until, well, it never really came back. The paradox. The side that claimed to be fighting for freedom and democracy used the war to end the classical gold standard forever. 1980. Germany. Lusas. Versailles Treaty. Germany must pay 132 billion gold marks in reparations. Deliberately impossible. Why? Because the only way Germany can pay is by borrowing dollars from Wall Street banks, J.P. Morgan, Kunlob, who are allied with the same London cartel. Germany borrows newly printed dollars to pay Britain and France, who use the money to pay back their war debts to America. It's a circular debt pyramid. 1923. Hyperinflation wipes out German middle-class savings. 1929. Wall Street crash collapses the pyramid. 1933. Roosevelt confiscates American private gold. The gold standard dies forever, exactly as planned by the creditors who engineered the crisis. Look at today. Global debt, $305 trillion. U.S. national debt, $36 trillion, and rising. The dollar is backed by nothing but military power and trust. Just like Britain in 1910, America runs chronic deficits while forcing allies and rivals to hold treasuries instead of gold. China and Russia are building alternatives. Digital yuan, gold-backed trade. The Suez Canal of today is not a waterway. It's the SWIFT payment system and the any country that tries to bypass it. Iraq 2003. Libya 2011. Russia 2022 suddenly finds itself in a defensive war. The pattern is identical. Major wars are often the final stage of unresolved financial wars, the moment when the creditor class needs a reset. The gold standard didn't die because it was inefficient, it died because it prevented unlimited debt creation by private banks. When a monetary empire loses its gold reserve cushion, it has two choices: reform or manufacture a crisis big enough to suspend the rules. They always choose the crisis. We are now deeper in debt than 1914, 1929, or 2008. Combined, central banks own more assets than ever before in history. The paradox is back. Peace requires debt growth, but infinite debt guarantees collapse. So the question isn't, will there be another reset? The question is, who will play the role of 1914 Germany this time? If this video made you rethink everything you were taught about World War I, do 3 things. Like this video right now. It tells YouTube, this content matters. Subscribe and hit the bell. Drop these forbidden financial histories every week. And comment below, who is today's Germany? I read every single comment. Next video exposes the secret 1910 Jekyll Island meeting that most historians still pretend was just a duck hunt. You won't want to miss it. See you in the next one.